Hello and welcome to Note Doctors. My name is Paul.
My name is Jen.
My name is Ben.
And we are your hosts. We are all university music theory instructors who are passionate about music theory and music theory instruction. In this podcast, we will be talking about all things theory with some of the best music theory teachers in the country. If you want to know more about music theory and the most effective and innovative ways to teach it, this is the podcast for you.
So we're all trying to practice gratitude in 2020 to help ourselves stay sane.
That's right. And we've made
so
it.
We survived.
We survived. We have survived.
And our students survived.
They did. They did.
And more of them passed than I thought were going to.
Yeah, it was quite remarkable. Some of how successful some of the students were in this this situation. But
It's true.
so we thought we would go around and share some of our favorite things from this semester and things we've learned, things we've appreciated, maybe some surprises. And so none of us have really talked about what our favorite things are. So we're going to learn about them together and find out. So I guess I will start because as we talked before, I think I had the most favorite things. And so I'll just kind of start off. But one of my favorite things from this semester was teaching in my house shoes. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed because I'm totally online. And so we have hardwood floors in my office. And so it gets cold when you're teaching at 8:30 in the morning. And so putting on my house shoes, I'm wearing pants. I've always worn pants. I've never kind of worn pajamas. Full disclosure. All right. I don't just wear a dress shirt on top, but I'm fully clothed. But having house shoes on has been great. It's just really, I'm wearing house shoes right now, actually. And so I don't know if that makes me old or out of touch, but that has definitely been one of my favorite things about teaching during the pandemic is being able to wear house shoes, for sure.
Well, I have a related favorite thing on my list, which was office hours at home with comfy pants on.
There we go.
Nothing better than that. And no shoes. I'm a no shoes kind of girl.
Okay, that's fine.
And so office hours with no shoes and comfy pants is great. Now, full disclosure, I often don't have shoes on in my work office either. But at home, I don't have to race to put them on when someone knocks on my door.
Right. So. Absolutely. No, I love the comfort factor. I mean, I looked at my dress shoes the other day and I'm like, I have not worn you in months.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had a need to at all. So.
Yeah, I think my dress code at the beginning of the semester was really high, and I thought, I need to look the part, and I need to make these Zoom meetings be like actual meetings, and head to toe, hair, everything. And then about mid-semester, it just kind of had a slow decline to not even a collar at the end of the semester for Zoom call.
Right. I'm like, it's just a black t-shirt. It's dressy.
Yeah,
right?
The black t-shirt, exactly. Yep, totally.
For women, so I was just discussing this with a friend, that for women, the question is, I actually wear makeup for Zoom meetings because you're seeing my whole face. But I'm maybe less likely to wear it on days I don't have meetings because I'm in a mask in front of my students. So now that I'm back face to face, most of my face is covered in class. And so I wear less makeup. It all ends up on the inside of the mask anyway. So...
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
You take off the mask and you're like, well, that's face colored now. That's
mine are coffee colored. Coffee
color. That too. Yeah.
I haven't shaved as often, I think partly because whenever I do go out, I'm wearing a mask. And so,
Right.
And,
oh yeah, that was totally on my list.
All right. So there we go.
Shaving.
So I guess comfort, that's been one of our favorite things.
Yeah.
For this past semester, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For sure. So I have kind of a random one, and that is I discovered it this very week, actually, as one of my new favorite things. I don't know why it took me this long, but I realized that if I muted myself during sight singing exams, I could sing along. And then I really know without a doubt when they are wrong. because I don't have perfect
Right.
pitch.
Wow, nice.
And so if they start to get off key, sometimes if their relationships are right, but they're in the wrong key or whatever, it can be
Right.
harder to tell like where it went astray. You have to go back and re-listen, which is kind of related. I love that you can, now I'm always recording sight singing exams and I can very easily, just be like, I'm going to check that one later. We have a big kind of barrier exam at my unit. Well, it's not, it's a proficiency exam, but it functions sort of as a barrier. And there were a few where I was like, I'll double check that one before I send the official grade. Because we all were like, well, I heard this many wrong notes. No, I only heard these. And I think they finished on the same dough. I don't think they did. So, and especially if there are tuning issues, things like that, sometimes it can be hard to tell. And so, especially for the aural skills 4 students, where it's hard, their stuff is really hard.
Right.
And so, if they get off just the tiniest bit, it can be tough to tell what just happened. And but if you're singing along, it's very easy to be like, well, they are clashing with what I am singing.
Right.
Or they're singing beautifully against what I'm singing, but it's not the same note. So that's a handy upside, I think.
Yeah, that's a good hack, because
Yeah.
that's been something helpful. All the recordings, you're always able to go back and I can check it on my keyboard or something like that. As long as
Yeah.
they actually sing in one of the 12 keys that I have on my keyboard. If they
Yeah,
start
occasionally.
like a quarter G quarter sharp,
Yep.
you're like,
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
Well, one of the ones that we were in question about, I went back and checked it, and I was like, the reason we were struggling is because the student was about a quarter tone sharp
Right.
on the first melody and a quarter
begin
tone
with.
flat on the second melody.
well,
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess their average is about right.
that's what you get when you have Jacob Collier in your oral skills class.
Right? Right? Thanks a lot, buddy.
You don't round up
Yeah.
his grade. You ask him to round up his pitch a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Please sing in one of our known keys,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No G sharp major. Or G,
Right.
what did he say? G half sharp major or whatever. he
Yeah.
calls it.
It's
Yeah.
that, it's that video of it's in the Bleak Midwinter. I think he has that modulation
Yes.
up to like
Yeah.
G quarter sharp or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And so
Pretty cool.
yeah, pretty cool.
Well, I have a somewhat unrelated favorite thing that I did because I was often asynchronous in the lectures, and there were various reasons why I chose to do that. One of them is because I had students in almost all time zones across the world, meaning some of my students were in Japan, and some of my students were also all the way around as far as Hawaii. And that makes it really hard to do lots of synchronous sessions, just in the morning or 9 a.m. or something here in Texas time. Gosh, the demands that would put on somebody in Japan and also Hawaii would be so early or late, depending. I don't know. I
Yep.
think students now stay up really late, so maybe that's late instead of morning for me. 1 a.m.
Right.
is early morning, but for them, I think it's actually really late.
Yeah.
So, yeah, teaching across all these different time zones was really fascinating. And just to be able to do that, I think is one of the big advantages of doing asynchronous
Yeah.
lectures. I think that is on the plus side for sure. It was
Yeah.
really cool to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a student in Thailand, and I didn't know that. And it was a grad class in the summer, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
all synchronous. And I thought they were going to be at least in the country, and I didn't find out till I think the second week that oh well, by the way, I'm in Thailand, so it was like 1 p.m. Texas time. I don't even know what it was in Thailand, but yeah, it's probably like it's in the future. It's the next day.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like 2 a.m. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
But I agree. The asynchronous option is so valuable because we have students, and then in the fall too, we had students who were not in Denton, not in the city or the state for a number of reasons. And yeah.
Yeah, I too had a student in India and a student in South Korea. And the student in South Korea actually in those juried sight singing exams, I hadn't seen her in quite some time because I only pop in on the juried part. I'm on the panel. And I saw her and said, "Oh, hello, it's so good to see you." And I said, "What time is it there?" She said, "It's 3:10 a.m." I thought, oh,
Yeah.
I feel so bad that we're making
Yeah.
you do this. But, She's like, it's okay. I've kind of shifted my schedule around because I've done this all semester. But
It's like they're working a third shift, like in a factory type of
right.
thing.
Oh my
you know?
goodness.
right. And my student in India was in 8 a.m. theory at 10 p.m. at night or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but it's amazing to me how if a student, one of the things that I really observed this semester was that if a student really wants this, then they still thrive. And both of those students are strong students and really thrived in our classes despite those challenges, which is really, I think, very impressive. So,
All right. So another one of my favorite things, and thinking about students, and I don't know if you had this, but the one student who always had their camera on. Like, I don't know if you always require students to have their cameras on. I did not, because sometimes
only during
you know,
tests.
We did not.
yeah, only
We did
during
not.
tests, or but obviously face-to-face things. But for lectures, like in my arranging class, I didn't require them to have their cameras on, and sometimes they did, and it'd be clearly that they're driving. So sometimes I was glad they didn't have their cameras on. 'Cause I'm like, like they're going through a drive-through, and they're like, class, yes, I know.
Can I
I'm
order a four-chord? Just kidding. Fries.
But there would always be at least one student in every class that would have their camera on every time, like fully dressed, ready to go, smiling, interacting. And so that would give me life, because if you're just, speaking into the void all the time and just see the names or the little avatars, I'm like, what's even happening? Is
Yeah.
anything cutting through? I don't know.
I had a couple students show up in Zoom. They had found like Facebook pictures of myself and my colleagues, and they had them like behind them in their Zoom. That happened a few times, which would crack me up every time. Be like, oh, hello.
Oh yeah, a couple students took pictures of me with my
Yeah.
headphones and everything, and then that became their background of the day, quote unquote, and all of this.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious. I would have done the same exact thing in undergrad, so I can't blame them. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Do you think teaching in this manner kind of levels the playing field a little bit, or like it knocks the professor down a little bit as far as kind of not of authority, but like there's a comfort level that is established in like a Zoom setting that you don't have in a classroom. Like in the classroom, you have this clear, I'm the professor, your students, just the way the classroom is structured and how, you're at the front of the class and then the students are at their seats. In this setting, it's a little bit more, everyone's kind of on the same plane. Everyone has the same little square that they're looking at. I wonder if that changes that dynamic at all.
Maybe. I mean, I thought a lot in the spring when we were fully online. I thought a lot about the fact that I was basically inviting all of these students and my colleagues and people on committees and things that I barely knew into my home
Yeah.
every day,
Right.
And I have a home office. I'm lucky that way, but I would sometimes move around too. So if I was sitting out in the kitchen, sometimes the students would be like, "Oh, what are you? Is that a smoothie on the counter?" And you're like, "Oh my
Christmas
gosh, they're just like
cookies,
observing." Yeah,
Right.
observing so much about my
Yeah.
personal life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more intimate.
Yeah, it's
In
interesting.
a way, yeah.
In a normal semester, both of you have kind of seen me in action, and I go all over the room, and I will sit next to my students, and I like to have a wireless microphone if I'm in a bigger room because I move around so much. So I've actually kind of tried to achieve that in a normal semester as far as getting down, really looking at what's on their papers and sitting next to them, and it's not the same, but I think Zoom does do a good job of kind of equalizing that and making everyone at least feel heard in a certain way. So if you rule accessibility out of it, then yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I think it does do something for that. It does.
And there's moments when you have your kid running in, like,
Right.
Oh yeah.
oh, by the way,
Or-
like, I need a piece of paper. Or they're like,
Yeah.
and at first I was like, you guys stay out of here, stay out. And then by then I'm like, just come in. It's no secret I have children, all right?
Right.
Like, who am I trying to hide this from?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely a moment in the spring where students asked me to play something in class and I wasn't anticipating needing to do that. And the piano in my home office was on the far wall from where my computer was, and I definitely was wearing like moose Christmas pajamas or something on bottom. And they're like, can you play that example for us? And I was like, okay, so something's gonna happen. I'm gonna get up and you're gonna see that I'm wearing moose pajamas, and you're just gonna have to live with that. That's where we are now.
Oh,
I mean, they loved it, I think, but
sure.
yeah,
Right.
that is a great equalizer when you're like, well, I used to be Dr. Weaver, and now I'm that person who teaches you wearing moose pajamas. So
Right. Uh-huh.
that's where we've come. Yeah.
Oh, that's
awesome.
fantastic. All right, who's next with their favorite thing?
Oh, I don't know.
I can go. So another one of my favorite things this semester was also happened this week. And it's something that I often get to do in a semester, but it was much easier this time because it was on Zoom. So we have a large songwriting program, and my colleague who oversees that program often invites myself and the other songwriting professor to come attend their sort of like final jury day. And so I got to sit in on those on Wednesday, and it's always one of the best parts of the semester, and that held true this time. And I was amazed at what they've been able to do, given that they have very limited access to the studio, given that, just this semester is what it is. And yet still they were producing some incredible songs with just a lot of potential for when they could really like take them to full production. So the way our system works is they have kind of an intro class where they learn to write lyrics, or it's very lyric focused. The person who teaches it is an English professor actually, but she's also a musician and a songwriter, so she's a perfect person to teach that class. But it's very lyric focused. And then in the advanced class, it's very like they write a lot. They write 12, 15 songs, something like that in a semester. And then in the final class, they have to team up with recording majors to produce kind of a little EP of the songs that they've written. And sometimes they are also recording majors. They can double dip there. The recording and songwriting degrees are really similar. But I'm really excited to hear where some of those songs go in their final stage after next semester. And I was so impressed by what they were able to do. And it just reminded me of what I said earlier, that some of our students are really resilient. Some of them are really struggling during this time. And so, but I think that's kind of true of us too. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
I have resilient moments, and then I have days where I'm like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to get to the end. Mm-hmm. And yet here we are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, we made it. That's definitely one of my favorite things. It's just been the students. Like when I was thinking of these things, just the students are still my favorite thing. They're my favorite thing when I'm face to face, and they're still my favorite thing. And their resilience, their eagerness to learn, and you still have those students who will send you emails. Where like, I'm working hard, and I know this is going to be the best, but I'm going to do my best, and I just want you to know it's not up to my own standard, whatever. And you look on their grade, and they're like getting a 92%.
right.
And I'm like I believe that you're going to do exceedingly well, and you don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
So those students that are still would be those students kind of knocking down your door to get that 93 up to a 95, are still there. But the students that I've been most amazed by are the ones that are Zooming from their job at Whataburger, which is a fast food joint, or or like they're on break at where did that one student work? Tom Thumb, the grocery store. She
Oh
would
my
send
gosh.
we would do videos of their sight singing. And so I'd have students recording themselves from break rooms from Tom Thumb. This other student looked like she was like a receptionist in some kind of healthcare facility. She's like wearing her mask and singing, Ottman Melody 20.11. And
Oh
And in the
man.
background, you hear like the intercom or something like that. And it's amazing, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
how they're able to cobble together a successful semester in spite of all the
Hmm.
things that else had gone on. It was just amazing. And I'm so grateful and so proud of so many of them for what they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, even students just coming back from really difficult situations in terms of loss in their family due to COVID,
Mm,
their
yeah.
own health, mental health has
Hmm.
been huge this semester. And I would say quite a few of my students overcame significant challenges that no
Yeah.
one probably saw coming, challenges that were probably bigger challenges than a lot of them had faced in a lot of different ways. And to see them overcome that and, to kind of give them the flexibility to turn in things, weeks later. I
Hmm.
mean, that was just a huge positive
Yeah.
from this semester, to see
Definitely.
them overcome that.
Right. It made me think about, and I think Blaze talked about this in our interview with our podcast with him about, what's the main point? What's the point of
Hmm.
our teaching? Is it for them to get 100% on a dictation, or is
Right.
it be able to understand this basic concept? And I think the flexibility, that's something, I don't know if it was one of my favorite things, because of course it creates a lot of hassles when you're flexible
Hmm.
with assignments and when things are turned in,
Hmm.
but it really made you think about, okay, what do I really want these students to do? What is going to make them
Yeah.
successful, and how am I grading this? Am I going to be that nitpicky? Okay, that was really, you didn't get that half diminished 7 of 5. It was a fully diminished 7 of 5. Those types of things. Or
Right.
I want you to
Right.
turn it in and work hard, and I don't care if it's a week late or something like that. I want you to be able to, to finish it, or to be able to do it, rather than this kind of arbitrary date that we mark. So that flexibility piece has been important, I think, for me to kind of learn and to think about going into the future about, okay, well, how am I grading, and what are my expectations? Because of course we want to still, it can't just be like, well, turn in whenever you want, right?
Right.
Right.
Because in the real world there are deadlines. You have to get things
Yeah.
done at certain points. But where is that flexibility? Where's that grace? And where's that balance?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a number of students get COVID or have to quarantine. Some students had to quarantine and then later they got COVID. So they were in and out of my classroom
my.
quite a bit, even though I was face to face. And I saw a lot of the same things. I was impressed I had students who tested positive and still never were absent once the entire semester.
Wow.
And that's something that we would never have had before this happened, right? If a student was ill like that and needed to be away, they would just have to be away. And there would be no like, well, I watched the video of class. I had several kids where they were truly absent. They just didn't show up or whatever. One of them said, "Oh, my alarm didn't go off," but I saw that you had recorded class that day. So I just watched it later to make sure I wasn't behind. Cause I call on people a ton in class, and I went to call on that student and then was like, "Oh, you weren't here." And she said, "No, I can answer because I attended anyway." Those are the things that like,
Yeah.
many times I thought if I was an undergrad going through this last year of school, how would I be doing?
Yeah.
How would I be functioning? And kudos to them for still showing up and still doing the work, even if it's late. And still, I allow homework corrections. And I was thrilled to see the corrections folder so full every time I went there. They actually did them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes when I teach, I feel like if I don't have the interaction with them, then somehow they've got to be missing something. Like surely they didn't understand, how a first inversion 4-chord sounds, because I didn't have this interaction with them. But then this semester it was like I would have a Zoom call with a student and they would refer to things that I had taught them asynchronously, and it was like, oh wow. I have to trust the fact that they're actually taking on these concepts asynchronously, and that when I talk to them, they can converse like professionals about it. And it's really cool to see that, to have them refer back to stuff that I never interacted directly with them on, but yet they understood. They totally understood it. It was really cool.
Yeah.
All right. What other favorite things do we got here?
I liked having a
yeah,
week
like-
off at Thanksgiving. That was my other favorite thing.
Oh,
we never
yeah,
have
that's nice.
we never have a week off at Thanksgiving, but we
Oh,
did this year
wow.
because we
Interesting.
normally have a long fall break, the longest that I know of any school. We have a
Yeah.
full
Yes.
week for fall break. It's in the beginning of October, and it's really magnificent. But we did not have that this year. Instead, we had a week off at Thanksgiving, which was also, it turns out, really quite lovely. Just it was a long haul to get there.
That's
Right.
how we all. That's how everyone else lives, Jen.
I know. I know. Yeah.
We start
I know.
end of August, and it's a slog to end
The
of
whole way
November.
to, yeah. No, I know.
Once you get into November. it
Well, you
always
guys have
starts
both
to start
taught
to
at
feel it.
DBU, so you have
right. We've
experienced
enjoyed
the
it.
joy that is fall
That's
break.
right.
It's a pretty
Yeah.
great thing.
I'm not going to
It's
deny
very
that.
nice.
All right. So
Yeah.
I guess one of my favorite things is, again, this is a silly one, is the new habitual sayings that I now have. Okay. Because, like, when you're teaching face to face, there's certain things like, what questions do you have? I mean, you still can say that over Zoom, but there's things like, let me share my screen. I can't tell you how many times I've
Yes.
said that.
Yes.
Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
And I'm always and it always takes me longer than it's supposed to, but let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Constantly. Always.
And to go along with that, it's let me make you a co-host, because sometimes if you are the host, then you cannot have a screen
Yes.
sharing with the student.
Uh-huh.
The student really needs to screen share with you.
Yes.
Yep, totally.
Yep, there's that.
I think for me it's for our online friends because I always have kids not in the room and kids in the room.
Yeah.
And so or students, adults not in the room and adults in the room. And so yeah, for me it's frequently for our online friends. Give me 1 second and I will share my screen or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, it's those things that you never thought you would be saying, but you're always saying. I think put it in the chat. That's another one that I would say.
Put it in the
often.
chat,
Put it in
yeah.
the chat. Put it in the chat. Yeah, please
Turn
mute
your mic on and tell me blah blah blah.
Yes, or turn your mic off.
Yeah.
'Cause I can hear
Well,
your
that too.
aunt in the background or something. So, yeah, there's a video of this professor saying, "Am I frozen?" And her students took every instance of her Zoom meetings and spliced it together. It's like a 3-minute video of her just saying, "Am I frozen?
Am I frozen?
Am I frozen? Am I frozen? Am I frozen?"
That's so good.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I said, "Let me share my screen," but so many
good.
times.
So I have my student attending in India, and there was a day where she turned her mic on. It often startles everyone in the room when, unexpectedly there's a voice from above. And frequently I have it turned way up because the musical examples in the textbook we use are often really quiet. So I'll have the volume cranked the
yeah.
entire way up. So then when the student speaks, it's deafeningly loud. And that happened this day. And the student was like, "Dr. Weaver, I don't know what to do because you sound like a robot. And I literally can't learn anything because I'm just laughing all the time." And so we figured out it must have been,
example.
yeah, yeah. She was like, it's literally in a MIDI robot voice. And we figured out it had to be her internet somehow
Sure.
because other students in the room logged in and they were like, "You sound normal to me,"
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was pretty funny. So she's like, "Just make sure it's recording and I'll watch it later, but I'm not going to learn anything this way because the whole time I'm just cracking up at the way you sound." So
That reminds me
yeah.
of the Zoom call transcriptions. Now, I never did this, but maybe you can comment. But some people got these transcriptions that were produced by some computer program of what they said in their lecture. And then, it's totally off of what they were saying. It's it sounds close to it when you read it, obviously. But the transcription, is like the crazy brown fox, whatever,
Yeah. Oh yeah. The so we use Kaltura in Blackboard in our
Yeah.
learning management system, and Kaltura updated so that it automatically puts subtitles in there for you. So videos that I made this last spring, a couple of them I've used again, and there was one about Coltrane's Giant Steps in the jazz class, and so frequently it said coal trains, like coal, what you use to burn for fuel, and trains like the means of transportation. And then I forget what else. It was like major third transformations, and I forget, it said something about birds, and it was pretty crazy.
Bird
Pretty
transformations.
crazy. Bird transformations
species.
on coal trains.
Sounds like music theory.
Yeah. Flipgrid, because I use that for sight singing, and
Okay.
they do closed captioning, and so so for all of their melodies, I would occasionally just have it on, and it'd be hilarious. It's like Tito loves so much. anything that's going Tito, like Tito would be Tito. Like
That is
Tito
so funny.
has, and it's just like so random and so funny what they would. How they would translate solfege, and so I did enjoy that. That was one of my favorite things.
That's great.
We do keyword quizzes, and on a couple of the keyword quizzes, their closed captioning was turned on, and it literally would just say boom, 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 boom. Oh my gosh.
Those are the things we have to enjoy.
So funny. Totally.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I had a student who, I don't know what her mic situation was, but every time she turned her mic on, it was like she had a vacuum cleaner like right next to her.
Oh my.
No.
And so she would turn, it was like the whole time, and you don't.
Are you okay?
I
Are
know,
you
and
under
like
duress?
she's talking, but it's just like, I don't know if it's like the AC, I don't know
Yeah.
what, but she got a new microphone like halfway through the semester, and I had never said anything because I didn't want to like call her
Right,
out,
right, of
like
course.
Right.
your mic sounds like you're talking into a trash bag.
Right.
But
Yeah.
and then she got the new mic. I was like, wow, and so
Yeah.
But the technology creates some humorous things for sure.
It does.
Oh, yeah,
I love
no
two
doubt.
sight singing exams where it'll freeze for a second, and then you'll get like until it moves on. Those are my favorite too.
Yeah,
And then
rhythm.
it'll be really super accelerated the next part.
Right. Oh yeah, figuring out whether they're doing rhythm correctly is like. But one of my colleagues hacked that. One of my colleagues told them they had to sing with a metronome, because then
Yeah.
you can hear how they relate to the metronome. And I was like, that's smart. So
Yes. Yeah, I had some
good
singing with
hack.
metronomes all the time, and that does help because then you can tell. Okay, yeah, that click is is still going steadily or not. So
right.
Oh my. So any other favorite things? We're kind of probably nearing the end of our time. We all have, more sleep to catch up on and
True.
Things.
Yeah.
So-
Well, this might sound cheesy, but making this podcast has been one of the best parts of 2020 in my
Yeah,
work life.
Totally.
For
totally.
sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
this has been a pleasant surprise, and we're really excited for the spring. Some of
Yeah,
our
we have some
guests that
we have some exciting guests coming
We
on in
do.
the spring.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
So those will be rolling out in January. So make sure to listen for those. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a whole lot,
Same.
and it's been
Yeah.
just inspiring because again, we can feel so isolated
Mm-hmm.
in this pandemic, and certainly we're going to still feel isolated into the spring,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
up until things eventually improve. But this podcast has been great for just getting to talk with others and share ideas. When we can't go to conferences, we can't, even see each other out, for fun. So that this
Right.
podcast has been a blast, and certainly one of my favorite things for this semester.
Yeah, it's helped me stay kind of excited and motivated and all of those things. And on the days where you're like, I don't know, everything's going wrong and you can't my grading takes me so much longer now that it's all on the computer. It takes, I think, 3 times as long. Just to
One of my
grade
least
and-
favorite things is grading on
Yes.
Canvas. Oh my gosh, the little
Yes.
marker tool,
Typing the
like
comments.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it'll stop working if you accidentally use it to scroll in Blackboard. It'll then stop writing, and you have to go the whole way back. Yes, but we're not doing least favorite.
we're not
things.
doing that. We're not. We're
But I
staying
just want to
positive.
say that on those days where you're like, I could take Blackboard and throw it in the river and never miss it again for a single minute, then we would get together and talk about our students and our work and how we're doing, and it helped every single time. So,
Yeah.
Agreed.
well, on that joyful note,
Yeah, on that joyful note.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will be back in a few weeks. We're going to take a little break. But please don't forget to, subscribe, rate, and review. Give us that 5-star review. That's helpful, I think. I don't really
It
know.
is.
It's helpful for people to find us with those, but if you have a chance to do that, we would greatly appreciate it.
See you in the new year.
See you in 2021.
So that's our show. Thank you so much for listening to Note Doctors, the Music Theory and Pedagogy podcast. We will be back with more interviews with professors and teachers who will be dropping all sorts of theory knowledge for your education, edification, and enjoyment. So until then, bye-bye.